You're going into your second year here in Stillwater. Just sort of what stood out about the program, the university, the town, all that good stuff.
Yeah, first from the town, a lot of great people here. Awesome college town. I came from Starkville, Mississippi. There's a lot of similarities as far as just being a true college town. The support, great place to raise a family. So first and foremost, it's awesome for my family. As far as the school goes, I think it's along the same lines. A lot of support. We've learned pretty quickly that it's a basketball place and they want us to be good. I think we have the resources to do that. So going into year two, a lot more excitement for us. Just having a year under our belt, like Coach and us talked about before. But I think it's a great place. People love basketball here, like I said. They obviously have a history of it and wanting to be good. And so I think those are the types of places you want to work as an assistant coach.
I imagine the off season, y'all can get a lot more done having the entire off season and not coming in so late.
Yeah, and I caught like a little bit of snippet of Coach's last press conference, I think, where he mentioned, hey, we were all at different places, and it's true. So you have guys coming from lower levels, mid levels, high levels. I was in Mississippi, coached at Western Kentucky. The rest of the staff was kind of all over the place. So you come in on April 1st or whatever it was, you got the job, and you're really just trying to piece it together quickly. You have a certain NIL budget you have to work with, and you're trying to figure out who's coming back, who's leaving, et cetera. So once you get to that point, now you're just like playing catch up, it seems like the whole time. And you're really just honestly treading water all the way until school starts when you get here in August. Now you have a full year of recruiting, understanding what types of guys will work here for both coach and for the school. It has to be a good fit for everybody. And then you kind of hit the ground running come transfer portal time. So we were blessed to have some good freshmen that we were able to get last fall and then go into the portal, and we kind of hit pretty early on some guys that we really wanted. And so that makes it a lot easier coming into year two, obviously, where you have some familiarity with the staff, we're all on the same page. Then obviously you have some guys that you've known for quite a little while longer. It makes it a lot more exciting, for sure.
Is it easier to picture how, from a recruiting standpoint, especially with the portal, is it easier to picture how some of those pieces this year will fit together, whereas last year, because coaches are in different places and you don't have a lot of time to really evaluate guys and find guys, like, is it easier to imagine how this group will work?
Well, right, yeah, because you had a lot longer to recruit them and to know what you were getting from the standpoint of doing the background. When you get here last April and you're trying to sign guys 10 or 12 days later, you're just trying to accumulate as much talent as possible when you first get here. Now, in year two, you know exactly what fits in the coach's system, what we needed based off who might or might not come back, and then obviously who you already had signed in the fall. So yeah, it's a lot easier from the standpoint of making sure everything fits. And then obviously, hey, we signed some guys in the fall. Hey, this piece fits here, this piece fits there. It's a lot easier, yeah, for sure. You really, when you first get here, are just trying to feel the roster first and foremost in the transfer portal days. But then you have to find enough talent to be able to match what you need. So it's a lot different this year, for sure.
You were in a good spot at Mississippi State under Jans. That's a program on the rise. What made you want to take on this challenge and come here with Steve Litz?
So yeah, Coach Jans was like unbelievable to me. I worked for him for 6 years. I honestly never thought I would leave his side unless it was for a head job. I love him as a person. I loved working for him. Coach Lutz and I have been pretty good friends for 12 or 13 years now. And so when this opportunity came, I have goals and aspirations to be a head coach one day. I had been an associate head coach in the SEC. We had gone to 2 NCAA tournaments. And my mindset selfishly was, hey, if I can come here and help us get to the NCAA tournament as an associate head coach in the Big 12, what other boxes can I check as an assistant coach? So that was kind of my thought process selfishly. And then holistically, hey, it's Big 12, it's Oklahoma State, there's a lot of tradition here. It was a new challenge for me to be able to help one of my closest friends. And so that what really excited me. If it was just some random place that didn't have some tradition or it wasn't with one of my best friends, I wouldn't have done it. There's no way. Like I said, I never thought I would leave Coach's side.
What had been your kind of perception of Oklahoma State, whether it's when you were young and just kind of getting in, or more recently?
So when I was a junior college head coach, I had a kid that played here, a kid named Jeff Newberry, and he loved Oklahoma State. Like, he loved his experience here. He spoke glowingly about the town and about the school. And so my perception was always just, hey, it's a great place, it's a great college town. Obviously, you had a lot of pros come through here, and they've had really good success, Final Fours, national championships way back before any of us were born. I think most everybody in this room. So that's what I knew about Oklahoma State. I'd only been here one other time, and it was when I was in college. And I came to homecoming. I thought it was a really cool homecoming. That's about my extent of what I knew. So as you do more research, when you start to look at about taking a job, hey, can you win there? What types of people are there? What kind of resources do you have? And as you did some research and then you came and you see the place, you know that it was really It needed a little bit of a facelift, I think, in a little bit of a way. It's a little bit old school, and from the standpoint of, hey, we need a little can of paint here and there, and we needed to put a little bit of TLC into it. But hey, look, usually history repeats itself, and they've won big here in the past. So if we can get some good players in here and do it the right way, there's no reason why we couldn't do the same thing. That was my mindset.
Why did you end up at a homecoming here exactly?
It's a long story, but I went to school at Colorado State, and I met a guy who was just visiting in the summertime, a fraternity guy, and we were in the same fraternity. And he went to Oklahoma State. He said, "Hey, you got to come out here for homecoming." So then the next year we came out for homecoming. It was sweet. I remember a little bit of it.
How would you describe your recruiting style?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I think it's like anything else. You just put a lot of hard work into it. You build relationships. Even in the transfer portal day and age, you have to have relationships with these young men, and they generally have to know that you care about them. Then you just look for the fit with coach and what our system is in the school. And then when you do those types of things, usually it fits into place. Look, you have something to sell here it's a beautiful place from the standpoint of you can worry about school and basketball. Sure, there's college life. You're gonna have parties. You got the strip. You got all that stuff. But like I tell guys all the time, if you want to go to school in Miami or LA, this is not the place for you. And I think our coaching style and our coaching staff, those are the types of guys we want to coach. We want guys that don't want distractions. We want to help them get their degree. We want to make sure that we put them in the best position to hopefully play after college, ideally in the NBA or overseas. And I think this is the type of place where if you're really serious about school and basketball and you view it as a business trip from these guys that aren't from around here, it's a great place to have that success. So recruiting style is this relationships. This is the type of place where it's not Miami, it's not LA, it's a different type of place. So you really want to have some genuine relationships with those young men and the people that are trying to help you get the players. And that's not really normal anymore in our climate, unfortunately.
What have you learned as a coach from your first years at Pueblo to now? What can you say that I've learned the most about coaching from that point to now?
Jeez, Pueblo. I think it is about relationships. Like the climate that we're in now is so different than when I started coaching 20 or 21 years ago in college, right? So, but it does come down to if these players really believe that you care about them and you'll go the extra mile to help them be successful, right? I do think that still the kids that we have are at the core is really important to them. But with all that being said, I've learned from some unbelievable coaches. Like I work for some of the best coaches in the country. Chris Jans is one of the best coaches in the country. Grant McCasman, who I worked for 2 years and was a mentor for me, is one of the best coaches in the country. Steve Lutz is one of the best coaches in the country. So I think overall I've just taken a little bit of piece of each person I've worked for. But as a whole, what I've learned is you can never stop evolving and getting better as a coach. Whether you're defensive minded or offensive minded or everything in between, you can always get better. So I think that's probably what I've taken, piece by piece and learned something different from Grant McCasman or Steve Lutz or whoever I work for, Chris Tiff, unbelievable coaches. I've never worked for a bad coach. Knock on wood. I never have. So I've been blessed that way. But what I've learned is just you can always get better. You can always continue to grow. And if you work hard, you do right by the young men that you coach, good things usually happen.
Do you feel like you have more of a feel for the Big 12 conference after your first year as scouting teams, knowing schools compared to SEC? How big a transition is that? And how big was last year going to be for this year for you?
Yeah, I think all of our staff, me included, we definitely have a much better feel for the Big 12 and what to expect because you go through it one time and then you start playing some teams. You learn what they're going to try to do to you, just from a game planning standpoint or what they're about, what their core is as a staff and as a program for each individual place. Coming in, it's just different because you go through it one time and then you learn. Okay, we play Houston the first game in the league, and then we play them, second time, and now you know what does and doesn't work. But use them as an example. Coming from the SEC, it's just a different type of league. It's more athletic overall, more up and down. But the Big 12 is kind of like a crossing between the Big 10 and the SEC, where there's really good athletes still, but really good basketball players. It's not terribly difficult when you go from league to league because basketball is basketball, right? But I just think you have a better feel for what each program and what each coach is going to try to do to try to beat you on most nights and what their core principles are. I think we have a pretty good feel for that at this point now.
Are there things y'all wanted to do last year that you feel like will probably be easier for y'all to go to this year just with this group you've assembled?
I think Coach alluded to it. Like, Coach wants to play fast, right? Our system is fast. Well, when you play fast but you're scoring challenge, it's kind of a conundrum. Like, should you really play fast when you can't oftentimes make a layup or an open three? And that's no disrespect to the guys we had last year. That wasn't necessarily their fault in a lot of times. It's just trying to fit the pieces that we recruited, like we touched on earlier, to the system that we're going to run. So I think we're just a little bit better positioned to do that this year with the personnel that we have. And I think that naturally will hopefully allow us to have a little bit more success. That's probably the biggest thing, difference-wise.
In what little time you have had on the practice court, is it pretty clear that you do have got more pieces, the pieces that you would want to have to run this system?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily that we've arrived and we feel, it's perfect, but I think that the pieces we have, the guards that we have, they're quick. We have some more depth and bigger wings, which I think will help us in conference play, where you don't run out there with 6'2" guys all over the floor. You have some legitimately 6'5", 6'6" guys that can make shots and score, and that's kind of what they've always done. So I think that fits much more aligned with what we're trying to do. I think that, again, we still have to continue to recruit to get better, and our guys that we have now have to continue to work to get better. They have not arrived. They've been told that quite a bit lately. But at the same time, I do think that the pieces fit, like I touched on. I do think that with what we have right now, we're in better shape than we were this time last year, and I know Coach has said the same thing. So, again, when you go all the way back to last April, or 2 Aprils ago, excuse me, you're just trying to accumulate as much talent as possible when you step foot in Stillwater, because you can't go out there with no roster. Now you have a lot of time to figure out, okay, this is what fits, and I think our product should show that this year, I would believe.
How have you seen Ryan adjust to the college game so far?
Ryan's been good. He's probably our hardest worker this summer. I think that was voted on by our staff and by the players. He was our hardest worker. He obviously shoots the ball that translates. He's got more size than most traditional shooters. He's not 6'2", he's legit 6'4.5", 6'5", and bigger. The speed of the game for him defensively is probably, I wouldn't say the biggest challenge, but that's the biggest adjustment for him. But mentally, toughness-wise, he's done a pretty good job of fitting in so far. So as long as he can continue to do that, I think he'll be fine. It's just catching up to the speed. But his work ethic is, from day one, has been elite, and that's what we expected when we recruited him. So he's been not a surprise in a good way. I think that's what we were hoping to get and expected to get, and that's what he's been. With
all the different guys coming together for this team, how have you sort of seen the personalities mesh? I mean, I imagine that could be a little anxious feeling whenever you're bringing all these guys in who don't know each other. What's that been like so far?
It's been good. Coach does a really good job, along with the rest of the staff, of trying to do a lot of team building type activities in the summertime when we first get here. You have a whole new team, basically. You only have 2 guys back from last year, 3, I should say. So we've done a tremendous amount of things together in the summertime. And I think for the most part, that's carried over here into the fall. We have guys that, again, they might not always be best friends off the floor, but they get along together. They compete with each other. They like each other for the most part. They really do. And I think that starts with obviously coach and filters down through our staff into the guys, because at the end of the day, you don't come to Stillwater, Oklahoma to be by yourself. It come in here as one unit to try to do something really special together. Sure, there's individual goals. We all know that, but I think that our guys have done a really good job of buying into each other and being there for each other thus far.